So we've spoken about sharing among what we call different religions now, and we've also spoken about the sharing among different cultures from geographically removed areas, separated by an ocean actually. Um, I was wondering how we can understand the connections between these different identity groups through objects as an art historian or as a reader of art history. How do we do that?
So it's first of all, when it comes to ancient India, we have very little written sources.
Mm.
And that's one problem, So we really have to rely on material remains. For instance, if we think about the ancient Roman world and the kind of views they had of the other, they really have an extensive written tradition that actually helps us understand how the other was seen and framed and perceived.
Mm-hmm.
This is different. We have an extensive written tradition in India, of course, but it's of a different nature. We have very little historical writings in some ways. Okay, so we have a lot of epic writings, religious text, but we do lack the sort of extensive historiography from the time, from antiquity, that we may have, in China even, or in the Roman world. So I think we are left with material culture and art.
Right.
And we can piece together what these relationships were, but it's a bit of a guess because there's lots of things missing. Just from the evidence we have, we have to put together inscriptions, and we have to study artistic remains and architectural and whatever we have in order to piece it together. We can, I think, it's like a puzzle. There are missing pieces, but I think we can get a sense for the atmosphere of the past.
Could you give us an example of an excavation, perhaps of a stupa, and the things you'd find there, and the fields the disciplines you would use to understand them?
Absolutely. It's one example I could give perhaps is an ongoing excavations that are taking place in India. Actually, recent. Let's look at recent work done at the Stupa Kanganhalli in Karnataka. And so a lot of beautiful carvings, and the whole stupa was uncovered. And we have inscriptions, and so we have the work of the epigraphist, and we have a lot of pottery, and we need, therefore, the archaeologist, and we need a specialist to draw and study this material and relate it to other type of material that we find in India at the time. In some cases, you find coins, of course, and so you need the help of a numismatic specialist to kind of evaluate, this material, and to see whether they can help in dating the site.
Right.
So you have all sorts of specialists, and you need someone, for instance, if you're looking at identifying all the images represented in the carved reliefs at Kanganhalli, you will need someone who's well versed in the Buddhist tradition to be able to pinpoint the connection between these images and the textual sources, if any. So it's really teamwork, and of course an anthropologist will also evaluate the impact and the relationship of the monument with the landscape, and quite a number of specialists are involved in this kind of studies.
It is interesting you mentioned that, because when we read an article by an art historian or a specialist in literature, for example, it's usually authored by one person. And that stands in contrast to perhaps articles written by computer scientists or biologists where things are done in teams. But you're saying that within the humanities as well, there is a huge tradition of collaborating with other humanities and perhaps social science fields in order to develop a coherent story.
Absolutely. Well, especially, I think it's important if you look at an archaeological report, you will not find a single name. Never. So it's the article may be a study of a particular slice of things, but if you look at archaeological reports, I think I would you would not find just a single author. It's virtually impossible. So Yes, I think if you look, for instance, at the incredible work done by Deccan College, which is a great institution in Pune, it's for archaeology. If you look at all the publications there, always co-authored,
Right.
because it's like all these specialties cannot possibly fall within one person. It's
Right.
just impossible.
And it's interesting you mentioned archaeology as a kind of bridge between these teamwork sort of related fields, which are more science-based, and the others which are more so-called humanities. I'd love for you to talk about the entrance of scientific methods of analysis that are now contributing to our understanding of history, such as DNA analysis.
Yeah.
So in stupas, for example, as you were speaking about earlier, you might find relics of a human body, and you'd use DNA to say what that is and who that person is.
Well, in the case of stupas, it's really difficult because in order to do DNA testing, you need to have material that has not been manipulated a lot.
Right.
So you cannot do DNA testing on relics, essentially.
Right.
So whenever DNA testing has been done, it has been done in the case of necropolis.
Right.
So burials, proper burials, rather than reliquaries where the remains have been handled and etc. So, for instance, there have been these big studies done of DNA across Eurasia in an effort to map the sort of genetic pool of people across Eurasia. And in those cases, the samples were taken from necropolis, from tombs that were in good condition, that were preserved in a particular way, so that the DNA could be obtained, because otherwise you cannot get a strain that is usable.
Right.
And I think this DNA testing is interesting indeed and useful as everything. It's more information we have.
Right.
And then, we are the one ultimately to weave things together and use this information to the narrative and that's us. So the DNA is yet another source of information that we have available, and then we need to use it in a proper way, I think, and contextualize it.
And would you say that fields like linguistics, for example, has already come to certain conclusions that are just being confirmed by DNA analysis?
I think so. I think in some ways linguistics has been sort of the precursor of DNA testing. I mean, it's in some ways the closest thing somehow that kind of finds relationship among groups of people. It's really language is an amazing thing, and it really preserves all sorts of also encounters among people that may have happened in antiquity, changes, coming together, different groups, moving on. So I think linguistics is an incredibly sophisticated, if you wish, and complex discipline.
Hi, and thanks for checking out Art Story with PK. My name is Paritosh, and I created this channel in order to share content with you on the cultural past of India and our world. If you like what you see, please go ahead and share, subscribe, and check out my other social media profiles. And if you have any comments on the content I create, any questions, please go ahead and reach out to me.